Car Sales Talk 101, where it's all about life in the car business. Telling you like it is. Here's the man with the plan, Terry Cameron. Let's get started.
Welcome back to Car Sales Talk 101. I'm Terry Cameron. Thanks for hanging out again with me this week. Before we get started this week's episode, which is going to talk about what do we do with a BeBack when they do come back, I want to remind you guys to hop on over to Apple Podcast. Give me a rating, write me a review. I sure do appreciate it. And all the input you give me, I take it to heart. And one more thing I'd like to ask you to do. At the end of this episode, the young lady's going to give you my email address. I'm asking you a question, and if you could shoot me your answers to my email, I would really like to hear from you. And that question is, how are you handling business at your dealership or wherever you might work during this COVID crisis? How are you keeping your doors open, and how are you staying successful? How are you selling cars? Is there anything different? Just tell me what your thoughts are on that and how you're handling it. I'd love to hear from you, and I promise I will get back to you. Your input is really appreciated. So let's go ahead and get started with this week's episode. What to do when the BeBack comes back. I guess the first thing I want to do is ask you, what do you do when you get a BeBack back? I guess the answer to that would be depends on why they're coming back. If we did our job while they were here last time, and we really did the whole thing, my motto, 100% of the process to 100% of the people, 100% of the time, then chances are they're coming back to buy the car. You need to know this, that 67% of BeBacks close when they come back. So it's really important that you do your best while they're here on your lot today to try to sell them today and impress them so they do come back. So this BeBack comes back to buy the car. And that's only because when they left your dealership the last time, you let them know that, guys, if any dealership lets you walk out, you need to know you're walking out on their best deal. Because dealerships will practically do anything to sell a car, bar losing a ton of money or breaking the law. So they're coming back to buy the car. Maybe they are coming back to renegotiate. Maybe you left some money on the table, or maybe they came up with some other ideas. They could have a trade with them now. They might have a new co-signer. They may have a third base coach that's going to come in and really hammer you to give them a better deal. Whether you can or not doesn't matter. The thing you need to remember, though, is, like I said, the closing percentage on a BeBack is 67%. The first things first, if a customer comes on the lot, they're here to buy a car. 78% of the people that go out, step on your lot, buy a car within a week. So if they didn't buy the first time and they come back the second time, you've got a really good chance of closing them and making a sale. But either way, what do you do when they come back? Now, we start to skip some steps when the BeBack comes walking through the door, whether we know they're showing up or not. And it's because we think our job is done, the deal is done, they're here just to wrap up the paperwork. And that may be true. But I want you to think about this. Are their emotions as high this time as they were the last time they were here? Are they excited, just as excited this trip as a BeBack as they were before? I don't know. I know one thing, though, they ought to feel a little bit more comfortable because they're coming in and talking to you. They've already met you. You're not a stranger. And if they're coming back, chances are they like you. And remember that stat. 71% of the people said they bought because they liked their salesperson. On the same token, 71% of the people that didn't buy said it was because of their salesperson, even if the dealership had the car they wanted. So they're coming back, which means they like you, and you've got one up on everybody else. So when they do come back, there's a couple things that you need to do. Whether they want to do it or not, you have really got to start taking control of the scenario, the situation, and you need to get them back on a demo. You need to go over that vehicle one more time. You need to reinforce what they said was important to them. And if you can't remember, then you need to start asking some more questions and investigating a little bit more. But that demo is the highest emotional point of the process. That's where the customers picture themselves driving the car. That's where the customers picture the car sitting in their driveway. That's where the customer pictures those trips that they're planning to take this summer. And all their friends are going to be looking at it and being impressed with it. They take total mental ownership on that demo. Now, what usually happens when the customer is off the demo and they decide to buy the car and they go back into the business office, or what some of us like to call the box, or the finance manager's office? The more professional wording would be to meet the business manager in our business office. So when they go in there, do you think that for the most part, the payments that they went in there with are the same as they were, or the same as they are when they come out? Well, not if your business manager is doing their job. They ought to be able to upsell them. There's a lot of products in the finance office, in the business office, that are not ripoffs, even though some of us may think that. But if they're done right, and if the business manager does their investigation properly, they're going to recommend products that are only going to help the customer, help protect that investment that they just entered into with that new vehicle. So chances are the payments are going to come out higher than they were when they went in. And what happens if we couldn't get the payment that they were closed on? Maybe we couldn't get the rate. Maybe we couldn't get the term. Well, if that's the case, chances are payments are going to go up anyway. And we have a much better chance of them saying okay to a higher payment, whether it's because of the financing or because of the products that were offered to them. We have a better chance of them saying yes to those numbers and being happy about it, and sending you a happy customer score after the fact if they're excited about the vehicle, if they've driven the vehicle again and their emotions are really high. Remember, as soon as they come inside, after they're done with that demo, they sit down, logic starts to set in. And this is where they start wondering, and they start thinking, do we really need that high of a payment? I hope they don't offer me any of that extended stuff when we go back to see the finance manager. We ought to look online and see if there's a couple other cars out there before we make our final decision. Whatever, logic starts setting in. The emotion's gone. The ether's worn off. So you got to get them into the finance office quickly, but they need to go in there on a high note after driving the vehicle. So customer comes back. They're coming back to purchase the car because they like you. You have got to get them on that demo again. They have got to drive the car. You got to get their emotions high again. You got to get them in that driver's seat. Remember the phrase, the feel of the wheel secures the deal. You need to make sure they drive the vehicle again. Now, if you do have to go over the numbers again, which I do recommend, bring that old worksheet out, that old pencil out, and make sure they realize this is where we ended up on, and this is what they're going into the box with. Get them to sign off on it. But if you have to negotiate a little bit more, you think you have a better chance of bumping them a little bit if they're still excited about the car when they just came off the demo? They really want it? Yes, absolutely. So the big mistake we make when a BeBack comes back is assuming they're here to buy and we don't have to do anything else but get them in the box. That's wrong. We have got to get them in the car, in the cab, behind the wheel before they get in the box. Higher chance of closing, higher chance of them accepting a higher payment, a better chance of the dealership making more money to help pay your commission, your salary, your hourly wage, whatever it may be, and the better chance of you getting a happy customer score. Not only that, when that customer leaves and they're happy, it's a lot easier to ask them for a referral. And there's no better time than right then, before they leave. Guys, you just purchased your car. Who do you know that might be in the market for a car sooner down the road a bit? I promise I'm not going to blow their phone up. It's just somebody I'd like to talk to, introduce myself to. Who do you think? Well, they're excited. They're emotional, and they like you at that time. They're going to be a little more open-minded, and they're going to be willing to give you a name if you ask it right. So let's talk about this one more time. You did everything you could the first trip they were here. You gave 100% of the process, 100% of the time to 100% of the people. They left because they had to eat, sleep, think, pray on it, whatever. And now they're back. Don't assume they're coming back to buy on the numbers that they left on. Get them back in that demo. Get them excited before they get into finance. Get their emotions high before you go over those numbers with them again. You're going to find your job a little bit easier. Okay, I agree. It may take a little bit more time, but it's going to be a lot easier to close them, and they're going to be happy customers. So one more time, guys, remember, hop on over to the Apple Podcast and write a review and, give me a rating. And again, if you have any ideas about how you're handling your business during this COVID crisis and things that I could talk about in that context, please send it to my email. All right, remember, you know it, the sky's the limit, and I'm going to see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please rate it and write a review on Apple Podcast. We appreciate your valuable feedback. You can email Terry at 10minutessalestalk@hot.rr.com. And don't forget to share the show with a friend.